Hello learners, welcome to my YouTube channel N-TechXom. In this video, we will learn Scrum Estimation. Please like and subscribe my YouTube channel so I can prepare some more valuable videos for you. Let's start Scrum Estimation. Once you complete this video, you will be able to describe what the velocity of the team is, explain estimations including the difference between blind estimations and affinity estimations, describe how planning poker works and explain the differentiations between story point and idle time. Have you ever noticed how everyone wants to know when something is going to be done? This is, of course, one of the key things that the suits always want to know, right? In Agile software development, most estimating is not done in terms of collapse time. User stories are estimated by size. For example, one user story might have 10 story points and another user story have 5 story points. Now, we don't know how long it takes to done a point, but what we do know is that the story point is 10 is twice the size of the one that is included story point 5. The team's ability to complete story points is what we call velocity. So, velocity is not a prediction of how much a team can do during the sprint. It's an observation based on the historical and past performance of the team. The complexity of the user story, the business environments are obviously going to impact the velocity of the team. Let's take a look at an example of how to calculate the velocity for a team based on the historical information. We have a Scrum team that has completed 136 story points during the last 12 months. So the calculate velocity, we take 136 and divided by 12 and the result is 11.33. So on average the team has completed even 11.3 story points per sprint. So therefore the velocity for the team is 12. It is not 11. Remember, you always round up when you are calculating velocity. Now let's talk about two basic ways of estimating an agile. There is blind estimations and affinity estimations. Blind estimations require quite a bit of background work and involve estimating the product backlog, decomposing the reference story, identifying the team's capacity to complete work, and then predicting the team's velocity. In affinity estimations, user stories are grouped in the relative sizes. For example, it could be extra small, it could be small, medium, large, and extra large. In fact, what we call this set sizing. After the team is grouped the user stories into these categories, the product owner then has the opportunity to challenge the size of the user stories. Like the product owner might say, I think this one too small, or I think this one is big or extra large. And then the teams, based on the input from the product owner, might actually recategorize the user stories once they understand it better. A very popular way of agile estimating is a technique called planning poker, which, if you know, it's actually a variant of the wideband Delphi technique. In planning poker, the entire team collaboratively estimates the effort involved to complete each user story. Each member of the team receive a deck of cards numbered with 1, 3, 5, 13, 18. That is what we called a modified Fibonacci series. If you know what that is, even some teams actually use the Fibonacci series. Here we are using an example of a common modified version. Now, if necessary, those numbers could actually be increased. You could have more cards that are larger, but that's actually uncommon. If you get stories that are too big in size, the team usually gonna want to break them into separate stories. So the next step is the product owner read a story card and answer any questions the team might have them. Each team member alone, silently, privately assess the effort required for the story and decides how many points they want to assign that particular user story. When requested by the Scrum Master, each team member disclose the card that has the number that they think the story should be sized at. If there are any outliers, the team member explain why they come up with the extra high size or an extra low size. And then after discussion, the team member reestimate and then this continues until the final number is reached. So let's review an example of planning poker. This is begin with the product owner reading the user story, and then the team members provide their estimating using the planning poker cards. A user story like as an insurance agent, I want to create a FAQ so that I can share with the customers. In round one, the four team members come up with a 3825. So notice there are some couple of outliers. One employee said 8 and another employee said 2. So both employee 2 and 3 would give the reason and explain why those people are thinking differently from others. Employee 2 explain why he saw the estimates is being much larger than everyone else. And employee 3 explain why she should think it's so small. In in fact, they might actually have some points that the others didn't think about that are worthy to be considered. And then after they are finished, the round two will be begun. And you can see in this example how the results were 5, 5, 5, and 8. Now, after this round, employee 4 would have a chance to explain her take on the user story, and then the team would vote again. And this would be continue until all four members agree on the same size of the story. In agile estimating, notice in this graphic that the user stories are included in the product backlog and those are the items that need to be estimated. The estimation is done by the team at the top left and you can see that it's the product owner who describe and clarifies the user stories. The Scrum Master, whose role is facilitate the estimating efforts and coach as might be necessary. You can see to the development team who actually does the estimating and remember it's done in a collaborative way with consequence as the objective. Keep in mind that estimating is always going to result in just an approximations. What's interesting is that those of us that have involved in Agile for some time known that this kind of estimating is much more accurate than the bottom-up. Estimating that we do in the waterfall approach now, it's hard to get the switch to get that on the front end. But once you have a bit of a history, the business folks and the other stakeholders are going to become very confident. In the estimating that you come up with front, another point worth mentioning is that the team should periodically revisit their estimates and revise them as per the project progress. This is because the team actually gets better at sizing their stories. So far, we have been talking about estimating using story points. Well, this is the common and most preferred methods. It's not the only approach to agile estimating. The other approach is estimating in what called idle time. On this table, you can see a comparison between estimating and story points and estimating and idle time. There are pros and cons for each approach, so we'll discuss the each approach in detail. See, when we doing story points, for example, it's help drive cross-functional behavior, the estimations do not decay. They are a pure measure of size and the time required to do the estimating is very short. On the other hand, When we are using idle time estimates will differ from between members of each of the same team, which is a bit of disadvantage, but they are far more easier to explain to those that are outside of the team. Because story points are so much more abstract, they are easier to estimate, but it's going to take more time, and idle time estimates can compile companies to confront time wasting activities. I want to discuss a bit more about idle time here. So, idle time estimates answer the questions how long would it take to implement the story, given that it's the only thing being worked on. See, there are no interruptions and everything that's needed, such as clarifications, dependencies, software, whatever is available. So idle time is a fantasy. It doesn't exist. It is not elapsed time. Eventually, every idle time estimate will have to be converted to elapsed time in order to account for the normal interruptions for occur during the day, like phone calls, discussions, meeting breaks, etc. See, most team will estimate user stories in the product backlog using story points, but then when they are doing their story planning and sprint planning and disaggregation the user stories into tasks, then they transition to idle time estimate, and then the idle time estimates have to be converted to elapsed time, and this actually leads to a very reliable predictions for the schedule of the sprint. Let's review Agile Estimate. First of all, create the definition of done, determine the team's velocity, and then that's an observations and not a prediction. It's based on historical informations. Estimate the user stories using story points. The size of the story points needed to be included considerations for risk testing acceptance by the product owner. And once the story has been selected for a sprint disaggregating into the task, each task would then be estimated in idle time, then converted to elapsed time. In this video, we have covered agile estimation techniques like land estimations, affinity estimations, poker planning technique, and estimate and idle time.
Hello learners, please like and subscribe my YouTube channel so I can prepare some more valuable videos for you. Thank you.